Now hold that thought.
Indeed.
We'll let you get situated and make it done. Tell me when you're ready. Ready to go. You're ready to go. We'll call the meeting to order at 6:15. Roll call, please.
City of Winters,
Present.
County of Yolo.
Here.
City of Davis,
Here.
City of West Sacramento,
Here.
and City of Woodland is absent. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Madam Chair, if I may just remind the board members, when you talk, turn on the green light and put your mouth. Thank you.
Always a good reminder. All right, at this point, this is where we take comments from the public regarding matters that are not on the agenda, but which are within the purview of Yolo Transportation District. Comments are limited to 2 minutes per person, and please identify yourself and the community in which you live before providing comments. So with that, is there any member of the public who would like to come up and speak on an item that is not on tonight's agenda? Seeing none, we'll kind of move on to consent calendar. The only thing on consent calendar this evening is approval of minutes of the regular meeting. Are there any questions, corrections, or a motion to approve?
So moved.
I have a first
Second.
and a second. Do I have any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. That takes us right into the regular calendar. Madam Director.
I'm gonna welcome our senior planner, YoloTD, who's gonna present on the short range transit plan.
Okay, welcome.
Thank you all so much for having me this evening. Again, my name is YoloTD, Senior Planner here at YoloTD, and I'll be, go to the next slide, talking about several items tonight with the short range transit plan. So here's the agenda. We'll go over what the SRTP is, project overview. Go in a repeat of the Transit Planning 101 presentation that I gave you back in January. It's just one slide, don't worry about that. Go into the goals, what we've talked about with public engagement, going into some existing conditions, and then talking about the plan itself and the recommendations, which were intended to be presented to you back in July. So some of these things have since been updated, which is why this agenda is much longer than the last time you would have seen this. And then Brian will discuss the Woodland Transfer Point, which is part of the short range transit plan. All right, so what is a short range transit plan, or an SRTP? It is a detailed roadmap, unintended, for YoloTD's operations, investments, and service improvements within a 5 to 7 year time frame. For this plan, we're intending, we're calling it the 2024 to 2031 time frame. It is subject to periodic updates and revisions and is required by FTA to receive funding. So an overview, I've already mentioned, 2024 to 2031. And then, no, this is the right slide. So we analyzed this is the right slide.
Yeah.
Analyzed the market demographics, travel demand trends, ridership and current transit service efficiencies, and also community surveys to develop recommendations to best serve Yolo County. So at the bottom of the slide here is the timeline, and we are towards the very end where we are making changes based on community input from phase 2 that just ended last week. And then we will be presenting the final recommendations for the board approval. Oh my gosh, it's November, so next month. Next month. So as a repeat, like I said, from back in my presentation for you back in January, just Transit Planning 101, all transit providers have a struggle or balance between providing high ridership routes or frequent routes or versus coverage routes. And so frequent routes are ones that come all day. They're on walkable roadways with the more linear paths, whereas coverage routes are the ones that, the routes that provide geographic coverage, more equity, and provide critical community destination, access to critical community destinations. Here's a list of our goals. I'm not going to go into this, but you can read it on your own. But just to say that we intend to provide a high quality transit service that is sustainable. So for the development of the SRTP, we've gone through 2 rounds of public engagement. The first round in phase 1, we asked, what would you like to see from transit service in Yolo County? And that mostly took place in the summer of 2024. And then, as I mentioned before, phase 2 just ended, where we asked the question, here are recommendations that you, based on what you provided to us, how did we do? Right. So key themes from phase 1, the public told us to focus on frequency over coverage, to maintain fixed route service as the primary service model. Not many people like to microtransit, or majority of people prefer fixed route to microtransit, and then also to improve reliability and on-time performance. From phase 2, we're still diving in. Like I said, the survey was closed Wednesday of last week, but we've received about 240 total responses to the online survey. In addition, we tabled at 4 community events that were held in our member agencies. So we're at 3 different farmers markets and also a food bank distribution event in West Sacramento. We also, I also joined the city of Davis on their event at the Davis Food Co-op. That's not listed in here, for their own SRTP on the week before. Yeah, thank you. Yes, Lulu was there, so thank you. So that was very fun. We high-fived. It was great. And then we also, for outreach during phase 2, we conducted outreach to riders specifically on routes 40, 41, and 240. That was at the request of West Sacramento board member. And our interns were out there already doing NTD, or National Transit Database sample surveying. So they helped promote the survey and answer questions as needed. Overview, high level of what we'll see from the plan recommendations. We intend to modify route alignments to provide core 30-minute frequent service. Changing from that coverage model to a frequent model for Woodland, Davis, and West Sacramento routes. We hope to create more one-seat rides or require fewer transfers between key destinations, and then still rely on microtransit service for our own Beeline and also West Sacramento's VIA service to provide that coverage service model. And I won't go into the numbers down here at the table at the bottom, but it's just to say that by doing so, we're providing more access for residents and employees. So diving right in, I'm going to go through these in alphabetical order. So the first is Davis, and so not a lot of, not any big changes really here in Davis, except we're hoping to realign Route 42 to be able to serve Sutter Davis Hospital by access on John Jones Drive. So we'll just enter and exit 113 in a different location, and then also increase that frequency to 30-minute service all day, which right now it's only 30-minute service in peak times. For Knights Landing and Yolo Beeline service, we're not intending to make any changes, but we could analyze extending service up to Dunnigan and Samora in future and for expanded funding scenarios. For downtown Sacramento, for Route 42 specifically, we want to realign our routes for several reasons. One, mainly because right now our routes that go into downtown Sacramento are often having to detour because of events at Golden One or the farmers market near the Capitol. And so it just gets confusing for our riders and our operators, and that's not fair to them. So we're hoping to realign, and by doing so, we'll also be able to serve the new May Lee State Office Complex that's up, that has just opened recently near the rail yards. And also too, in doing that, the rerouting, we want to combine or share bus stop locations with other transit service providers in downtown. So if any of our riders want to transfer to, say, SAC-RT service afterwards, they would be able to do so within a block or two, as opposed to needing to walk even farther in order to make that transfer to and from a different service.
Any more questions now, or?
We'll wait to hear. You don't mind.
And Olin, do the chair then when you get there.
I'm sorry,
Enter the chair when we get there.
sorry, didn't,
Questions to the chair. when we
oh,
get
sure.
And so similar recommendations for our express service, wanting to reroute in the same to match the Route 42. And then we do intend right now to maintain the Spring Lake service levels until the area develops further in the demand for us. All right, in West Sacramento, we intend to simplify the routes because right now there are 4 routes in West Sacramento. We are hoping to combine routes 40, 41, and 240 into a new route, Route 38, that will also be partnered with Route 37, which not much is changing on Route 37, except that we intend to travel into downtown Sacramento on Route 37 during peak times, but then off-peak times it would stay within West Sacramento itself. We would time it, however, and don't mind going back. We would time the Route 37 to match with Route 42. So if someone did want to go into downtown during the off-peak times, if you will, midday, go into downtown Sacramento, you could transfer to Route 42 and be able to get in still pretty easily. So hopefully pretty easy. And then we would utilize VIA service to be able to cover the areas that would be no longer served by our fixed routes. This map, a series of maps are just to show the access changes. So if someone were to start at River City High School right now, they would currently not be able to get on fixed route service. They would not be able to get up into the Bright Project area, for example, within an hour. But through the proposed access change or through the proposed changes, someone from the high school would be able to get up into the Bright Project area between 45 minutes and an hour. Next slide is very similar is Walmart being able to start at Walmart. Right now, you cannot go start in Walmart and go into the south part of the city within an hour at all. And so being able to put these changes into place, someone would be able to access Walmart and to and from Southport within 45 minutes to an hour. For winters, we had 3 options presented to the public and for you with various mixes of restoring the Route 220 and B-line service. Next slide. We'll go into those. So the 3 options were just keep it 100% B-line. So right now we currently offer B-line service with 2 vans. And so one of the options is to just keep it as is. The second option is a hybrid between B-line and fixed route. So having 1 B-line vehicle and then bringing back the Route 220 and offer 4 round trips on the proposed route. Or third option is just 100% fixed route. Get rid of the B-line, restore the 220, and have 8 round trips on weekdays and 6 round trips on weekends on a fixed schedule. For Woodland, we are hoping to combine the existing routes 211 and 212 into a new route, 213. And that one would be bi-directional, which means that right now, routes 211 and 212 are only traveling in one direction. They sort of loop, do their own little tiny loops around the city and overlap a little bit. But if someone, say, were to live in the County Fair Mall area and want to travel over to Woodland Community College, they can hop on 212 and be able to do that fairly easily. But on the way back, the way the 212 navigates around the city, they'd have to actually circumnavigate the majority of the city to be able to get back to the Canyon Farm Mall area, which is not very great for anyone. It would take a long time. So we are proposing to combine those two routes in a bi-directional loop, and then also to, if you go to the next slide, to increase the frequency to every 30 minutes. So to match what we are proposing in West Sacramento as well. And then a couple route modifications for 215 based on feedback we heard from the public. And in order to do those changes for the new 213, we are proposing to reduce the number of B-line vehicles from the current offering of 4 vans down to 2. Next slide shows, again, those access changes for right now. If you were to, if you wanted to get to the hospital down in the southwest corner of the city on Gibson and Cottonwood, over half the city cannot access the hospital or the doctor's offices over there on transit in Woodland within an hour. And so by increasing the frequency to every 30 minutes and implementing the new route changes, the majority of the city would be able to access that area within 45 minutes. And then same down in the bottom maps with the wanting to access Walmart. Right now, half the city can't even access Walmart within an hour using transit, but through these changes in 30-minute frequency as proposed, the majority of the city would be able to within 45 minutes to an hour. And the last is the Causeway connection. No proposed changes here, just to say that we're having a potential expansion of service through additional funding sources, but so no change proposed as part of SRTP, but I wanted to make sure to include it in here to make sure that, you know, if you're like, wait a minute, what is that? You didn't forget about it. It's just no changes are proposed here. So for next steps, we're refining the recommendations based on feedback that you give us here and what we hear from the members of the public who took the survey. We will be developing, and that is sort of our base case scenario or baseline scenario. And then we will also be creating aspirational and constrained funding scenarios. And those will be adopted by our board hopefully in December. And then once that occurs, we will develop route scheduling and then an implementation plan for basically how to roll out these proposed recommendations. And that would occur in early 2026 through the spring. And with that, I'll pass it over to Brian for.
Maybe we should take this whole set of questions before we do the second set and get that taken care of. And with that, we'll I think, and then.
Sure. The timing of the SRTP, in other words, is it every 5 years, 10 years, 2 years?
This one, it's required to be done every 5 to 7 years.
Okay.
And so the last one that we did was more of a mini version, and this is a much larger network redesign. So I can't say when the next one is going to occur, but the good thing about us only offering bus service is buses are much easier to move around and reroute and things than rail. So if we find that something's not working, we can make changes over time.
Sure. How are you finding the FDA staff? Now, I know right now they're out of business. But it sounds like you're going through the same kinds of processes that we've been going through for years, which is a good thing as far as I'm concerned. And it sounds like they're planning to continue with the existing structure in terms of their participation and the requirements for studies and.
There are some, with the current government shutdown, certain things are not happening, but we hope that's temporary. More broadly, there have not been major changes to FTA programs at the moment, with a couple of exceptions. They have suspended the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program or DBE program, for the time being, while they are, we understand they are evaluating it and it will come back, but maybe in a different form. So right now, we're not, for all of our procurements, we're not including disadvantaged business enterprise requirements. As far as the level of funding that is available, you know, as part of the government shutdown, you know, you've been doing continuing resolutions to keep the level of funding that was available under the Infrastructure Investment Jobs Act, IIJA. But I think that there is a need to pass a new transportation bill at some point. And then that may dictate additional changes to FTA's programs.
Okay.
Ooh.
Oh,
Well, that's a little more positive. The meeting that I attended last spring, when I got the impression that Arnell was breaking things. They're cutting staff way back. The woman that made the presentation for FTA on Zoom was one of the few people, it sounded like one of the few people left in the LA organization.
It's true that they did lose a lot of staff in the spring, and there have been delays associated with that. So, you know, grants are taking longer to process. Nothing's getting processed right now, of course, because of the government shutdown. But yeah, so I should say you're right. There have been pretty significant impacts in terms of the reduction of staff. But in terms of the programs themselves, the majority of the programs are still operational.
Okay, and one last piece of this. Do you find that there's, that transit is being singled out for more cuts than some of the other areas, highways?
I couldn't
the
say.
FAA,
Yeah, I couldn't say.
okay.
All right, Lulu has the floor.
Oh, hello, so, I have a question on outreach, on like identify an opportunity for public input. So I understand that phase two, like collecting public feedback has ended. But I was wondering if we can consider doing, cause I noticed that outreach, locations are like in the community. But from my experience, actually, international students at UC Davis or other colleges, they heavily rely on Yolo bus to get around, and they probably won't have a car during their time here. So I was wondering if we can, like, just do one more round focusing on international students population to gather their feedback, like, at different colleges and universities within Yolo County.
I will, invite Adam to add to this. My hesitation on doing that is because we intend to have this adopted by the board next month. So we already extended it an additional 2 weeks from our planned month. So it's been open for 6 months and we've done extensive outreach. We were at the Davis Farmers Market during, orientation week, and then they had staff going, or not staff, students going around, and existing students taking new students to the farmers market and showing them what things are and who to talk to about certain things. And so I hear what you're saying. I don't believe we have time to do that based on our schedule to be able to have this implemented.
So when would be the next possible round for to gather public input? Because it's a 5 to 7 years of plan, and then we can periodically update it.
Yes, so after it is adopted by the board of directors, then we'll work toward an implementation plan and probably not do another large short-range transit plan like this for another 5 to 7 years.
Oh,
But smaller tweaks, of course, like I said, are, so if someone has comments and wants to provide, they can always email us and we can do some analysis or call. We have our customer service line, but I can't guarantee that.
oh,
Yeah.
sure, thank you.
And Autumn may want to speak because there's often a public comment built into some of those further down the road recommendations pieces, so.
I mean, I think it's a really important point that you make about making sure that we are reaching different communities. And I know one of the things that we've done is really to have a lot of advertising within the buses themselves, to make sure that people who are riding the bus have the opportunity to take the survey. And we always publish all of our all of our advertisements, things like this, are both in English and Spanish. However, we also oftentimes do Mandarin and other Russian, other languages as well. And I don't know if either of you could speak to, if we had those translated materials for these rounds, because I think those are both what are called safe harbor languages for us in Yolo County, because we have large enough populations, both who are Mandarin speaking as well as Russian speaking. Did we do any of was any of the outreach for the surveys in either Mandarin or Russian?
They were for Russian, yes, not Mandarin, not this time.
Just another question I want to ask. I believe that most community members probably don't know that we take their like input seriously. And I think in the future, we could emphasize that point to them.
Great.
Patrick.
Yeah, happy to see some of these updates and changes made. Love to see the time expectation to get across West Sacramento going down. I will say, keep up the good work, and if we can get below an hour to get across town, that would be excellent. I know that there's been the clip that the former Mayor Cabaldon made often about trying to buy ice cream and get it home before it melted. So anyhow, yeah, thank you for making changes to lower time.
I also wanted to say I was glad to see some of the CAC recommendations that we made on some of these routes really get picked up. So thank you for hearing us and the people who come to speak in front of us. On some of the items, like say I'm just picking on Winters because I can, where there are multiple potential options. Do you know how you'll be sorting through those recommendations? Does it come down to pricing for the city share or some combination of those types of issues?
No, so all of those three options are considered the same in terms of basically revenue hours and miles and hours. So they're all three the same, at least on the back end. It's more what the community prefers. So if you know what your recommendation for Winters would be, we will take that.
Well,
I'm sure the board will ask.
Pick on Winters. I do know there's some interest in bringing back a fixed route. I know there's also interest in retaining the B-line. And in particular, one of the prior issues we had before COVID was that fixed route serves tend to be taken up by Davis and Davis students. And so very often by the time one of those fixed route buses would get to Winters on its way to Vacaville, it would be full and the bus would bypass people.
Yeah.
So that was one of the reasons for the B-line in the first place. So just trying to make sure that we are mindful, because Winters is small, but its population still needs to go places. So before we move on though, I think we're going to ask people in public and online if they want to speak to this item, and then we'll take a second round from members. We're going to wait until.
Madam Chair, two things. Yeah, we have to finish the presentation, so we can do that now, or we can do it after you take public comment. And also, I think Jane, someone else has joined us online.
Yes, Frank Reyes has joined us online. He's a panelist.
Okay, my thinking is that we just finish the impact on this item, and then we talk about the second half, which is the transit system. And that way, then we're not gonna have muddy stuff.
I mean, it is all one agenda item.
It is one agenda item. I get it.
Just want to make sure.
Well, one has a recommendation and one is just, I thought we finished it. Is there anybody in the public that would like to speak on this item? Who is sitting in the room?
Hi, I think this is Frank. Sorry I couldn't make it in today. I could speak, right?
Go on. Is there anyone online who would like to speak on this item? Hi, Frank.
No public comment online, but I will ask Frank to unmute himself.
Hi, can you hear me? Hello?
Hi, Frank. You're
Okay. Yes, can you hear me?
You're on now.
Okay,
Your
thank
hand
you.
raised.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Volume, the
Hello?
volume turned up?
Oh,
It's
hello?
fine.
We can't hear you.
Okay, let me turn it off.
It's showing up, it's green, so it's showing that he's speaking, so.
I'm wondering,
It's
based
our.
do we need to turn?
Daisy said she can hear me.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Oh, so the speaker here, second, yeah.
Hello?
Hold on, Frank, we can't hear you.
Our IT person is out sick today, so Janine's been doing it all herself.
Okay, can you hear me now?
I wonder if there's an owl volume. Well, where's the sound come from?
It worked earlier when we did time.
Is it on?
Yeah. That's right, it was working there.
Okay, how about now?
No, we can't hear you yet, I think it's an issue on our end.
Yeah, still can't hear you. Sorry.
Okay.
We'll change the output, the speaker output,
Okay.
what you're doing, Brian?
That's what I'm trying to do.
It did work during the test, and it's true.
Just let me know if you want me to test anything.
Coming from Mike.
Yeah, we can put the mic,
Mic, yeah.
put the mic in front of the speaker of the computer.
Okay, you can hear me
I don't
now.
know, it's not. I was expecting to see the owl show up here, but maybe do it from this.
Okay.
Does that controls that? Oh, it does? Yeah. Oh.
How many YoloTD staff does it take to get the volume to work? They're doing better than I would.
Meeting owl at the very top. For under the select a speaker. Oh.
Oh. That's good. All right, try it now, Frank.
Okay, testing.
Yay!
All right, great. Okay, let me just switch to my notes that I have for you guys. And you still hear me, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Great. So I did have some notes for the short range transit plan. For the 42 A and B through Davis, since the routing recommendation does not go directly through downtown via any of the less than Fifth Street numbers, I was wondering if there'd be consideration for coordination perhaps with Unitrans for enhancing the Fifth Street stops, such as small e-ink displays to better advertise the arrival times for both Unitrans and Yolobus on that corridor. Additional note I had for the 42 through downtown Sacramento looks great. Avoids the big events. I know I've taken the 42 from Golden One Center before and getting stuck in all that traffic. We're kind of trying to figure out where the stops are. Hopefully, this streamlining will help with that in the future. Excited to see that the SRTP looks like it will align really well with the brand new Kaiser Hospital that will be opening up in the rail yards sometime in 2028. So that'll be a great trip generator for that. And let's see, 42 in Woodland. Let's see here. I did have a question on what the metrics for rerouting additional service through Spring Lake was. I know there was notation made on certain metrics being met before or further build out being needed prior to enhanced service through the area. And I was wondering if there could be more detailed metrics provided by staff. Let's see. I do think that the local changes would be very nice. The new perimeter changes, they remind me of the Unitrans perimeter routes, the P and the Q. when I used to be a driver, those were great and a student, those were great routes that provided excellent coverage for the whole city. And these look like they will do something similar with the Dignity Health in the southwest corner of Woodland and reaching all the way up to the far northeast corner of the city as well. I did have this quick feedback for Winters based off some of the data I reviewed on the PDFs that were submitted. I seem to think that the 50 split between including Beeline service and fixed route might be the best bet. Just based off of the high usage for both. As was mentioned earlier, the I'm forgetting the 220 when it runs from Davis to Winters to Vacaville was very high, had a high utilization, and Beeline would probably work really well in coordination with that, not one or the other. And that is all the notes I have for the SRTP.
Thank you, Frank. We have one more round of, sure.
I got a couple. When state employees return downtown next year, will it be possible to get any changes at that time if they're unhappy? Because they're walking further to the stops now.
Right, so, great question. A lot of the recommendations that, were developed here were developed before when we thought that they would be coming back actually this summer. And so we've heard a lot of folks, especially for the Maylee complex, and also there's some staff has shifted down to, an office on O Street. And so with the new routing proposed there, they would be able to access it. So basically, yes, we can always make changes,
Okay.
based on feedback and things once it is implemented.
Where's the Maylee Center?
The Maylee Center's in the rail yards.
And what is it?
It's a new office complex, so a massive building,
Okay.
for state workers.
Okay, I think I've seen that building, but there was no signage on it.
It might not have been open yet. I believe it just opened within the last few months.
Okay, and so it'll have a number of departments in there, or is it one department? Or-
I believe it's a number of departments, but I could be wrong.
It's
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah, they actually, we received a petition from staff who work there and said we would like service there.
Oh, good, okay. And then a silly question, but get me up to date on the farmer's market. It's at the Capitol. You said there's a farmer's market now near the Capitol, and that was part of the reason for shifting.
Yes, so when there is a
42?
farmer's market, at the Capitol, which I don't know the frequency or anything like that, but they, they shut down the road in front of the Capitol and require, it's not directly in front of the Capitol, it's the, roadway that connects the Tower Bridge to the Capitol.
Oh, okay, the mall then.
It's the mall, thank you, yes. It's Monday night. Yes, they have, farmers markets there periodically, and we cannot access that road when that
Is it
occurs.
well attended?
That I don't know,
Okay,
enough to they still have it.
and the city wanted that, and they wanted to keep it for folks who are doing the farmer's market.
We didn't coordinate on that, we just said we were annoyed with the detours, and so let's do our best to
Okay,
prevent that.
it's a mess, so they get that. And then one last question, any coordination with the annual SACOG evaluation that they do on transit service?
Oh,
Usually in the
yes.
springtime.
Yes, so we are utilizing the, and for those who aren't aware, there is an unmet transit needs assessment done annually by SACOG. So we are utilizing the survey responses both from phase 1 and phase 2 to submit information about that. So Frank's comment specifically on Spring Lake area is something that we will be sharing with them, and anything else that we get back from the survey. So yes, so we are constantly receiving those types of comments and sharing them with SACOG.
Barbara's still good at
That is an awesome question.
Yeah, Barbara's still there.
okay.
She just had a party celebrating her 25th anniversary at SACOG, I want to say, but
Homework.
Impressive.
Yeah, that's about right.
Okay, we have another from Lulu.
Thank you.
Oh, so, I have a question. So I understand that the phase two outreach has just ended. Can I provide a response to this survey as a CAC member rather than a member of the public?
That's what this meeting is here for, yes.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so any comments that you have, feel free to share it with me. It will be shared with our board of directors and consultants.
Okay, so, I saw that we have received 238 responses during.
I believe it's now 239. When I wrote that, it hadn't closed yet, and that we got it on, I believe, the last day, so very
Yeah,
close.
so I was thinking if we can provide like a higher motivation or incentive or something for community members to want to provide out, their input. For example, I was thinking maybe, like a discount or a free ticket to ride a Yolo bus. Instead of telling them, hey, you will be entered to win, a gift card, because for me, I usually thought, I won't win. Yeah, problem. And then the second thing I thought, can we consider like having, workshops or something like fireside chat in communities to really, like educate and inspire community members that the importance of community engagement in order for us to better serve them. And you still trust in their consciousness that we indeed take their feedback seriously. So please fill out the survey. Oh, yeah, that's what.
Thank you. Patrick's got another one.
Just a comment, speaking to the West Sacramento specific, proposed changes. I did just see in I think somewhere online, a comment, somebody expressing their doubt in via, West Sacramento resident. And, I will caution, I think I have given this feedback before, that during like really high demand and peak times with VIA, rides get dropped often. And I will just caution that, I think one thing about buses is if they can be nothing, if nothing, they can be reliable in some cases. And I wouldn't use that adjective for VIA all the time. And so with that being the kind of safety net or like something to relieve tension in West Sacramento, that it can be less consistent than a bus for people who might rely on it. And I want to acknowledge that we're fortunate to have VIA in West Sacramento. Not every community does. But if ridership starts to increase, or become more self-sustaining in West Sacramento one day, I think it might be better to rely a little less on VIA and a little more on reliable transit options for people, more reliable transit options.
Thank you.
I appreciate that, and I'm sure if I may respond. I think it's a valid point. I think that, one of the things we've seen, and Lola alluded to, is that we have seen the ridership decline on the fixed routes, particularly in the northern part of the city, as VIA has come online. That trend started before the pandemic, after VIA was introduced, before the pandemic, and then it was really accelerated after the pandemic. And so, we've seen in some cases, productivity on those routes has dropped by like 2/3. And, one of the factors is that the VIA service is actually less expensive than a Yolo bus in terms of purchasing a pass. If you're just taking one trip, Yolo bus is more affordable, but if you're buying a monthly pass, VIA doesn't do monthly passes, they do weekly passes, but 4 weekly passes on VIA is less than a monthly pass on Yolo bus. So, these are, what's happened is we have seen more and more ridership go to VIA. And so I think there are some concerns about what the implications are, but we have to look at, where the ridership exists in our system and where it seems to be duplicating other services. And so, but, back to the point that Lola made, these are not trains, right? Their buses and buses are easily rerouted if conditions change, and depending on what happens with VIA in the future, we had to make certain assumptions in order to make a plan for the future. And this plan assumes that VIA is going to exist in its current form for the next 5 to 7 years. And that's based on, the direction that we received from the city of West Sacramento. But we obviously recognize that things are constantly changing, and, if that does change, then, that we may need to reevaluate some of our assumptions.
Appreciate that comment. Let's move on to part two of this, two-part staff item.
That brings us to the woodland transfer point portion of this agenda item, and it's actually quite closely related to the short range transit plan, because as all of you are aware, we're trying to relocate out of the county fair mall for years now, and now that this schedules are sort of converging between decisions related to the Woodland Transit Center and the SRTP, we're really having to intertwine them, because we wouldn't want to relocate to a new transit center with the existing route structure and then have to, reroute, then implement route changes after that. So it's they're both proceeding well. And I thought that what we could do here, next slide, please, was that just reiterate some of the, goals and objectives for relocating. And really, we've had a long-standing objective also to try to connect the central business districts of Woodland, Davis, West Sacramento, and downtown Sacramento with a single seat ride, which you can't do right now if you're trying to get to downtown Woodland. Downtown Woodland is a large trip, generator and attractor. There's services, courthouse. There is employees that need to be able to access downtown. So that's really the premise of us wanting to locate there as we look to relocate out of the county fair mall. Next slide. So from a timeline standpoint, back in January of this year, we did bring a recommendation to the CAC that we were proposing to relocate to Court Street, the segment between Second and Third Street. We did receive a unanimous support from the CAC on that recommendation. We subsequently held a sort of mock transit center event in downtown Woodland. And then we went to the Woodland City Council to try to get their support for that. They were not willing to give support for that location and asked us to work with city staff in Woodland to try to find a couple of different locations that were, workable for both of us. And so that's what we really spent a lot of time working on in the spring. Was there were a handful of other locations that were conceivable, but really were turning out to be, not ideal for us from an operational standpoint, and not ideal for the city from, a community impact standpoint. But one location that did begin to stand out very quickly was this location on Main Street between 5th and 6th. It's on a, main arterial. It's a pleasant environment. It's close to downtown, not as far deep into downtown as the Court Street location was, but the court going all the way to Court in 2nd and 3rd Street was going to add some travel time to the Route 42, because we would be going so deep in and then looping back out. So this location on Main Street emerged as the front runner, and the others were quite a bit behind. So we asked the ad hoc committee, which was a three-member panel consisting of city council members from Woodland and our board members, said, hey, we're gaining, momentum is gaining around this Main Street location, and we'd like to continue exploring this. They supported that, and we spent the summertime making sure everything could function operationally. And so we brought that to the ad hoc committee a second time, and we're able to get their support for that as the preferred alternative. And we're calling this a transfer point and not a transit center, because it has some distinctions from a transit center that are unique. We've subsequently gone to the Woodland City Council in September, and we were able to get their support for that. So that's a big milestone for us to cross after so many years of trying to find a substitute for the county fair mall. And we were able to get their endorsement for the Main Street location. Immediately thereafter, we applied to SACOG for consideration in their mobility zones funding program that would help fund some capital improvements and, sort of placemaking features at the new transfer point. Next slide. Just from a location standpoint, you can just see where we're looking to move to versus where we're looking to move from. County Fair Mall is the pin that's immediately south on sort of the southern edge of town. We've overlaid the new Route 38, 213. That's right, 38 is what's that. The new Route 213, the bidirectional loop, along with the reroute of the 42 to serve the new transit center. And then also the 215 wouldn't really change fundamentally that much. All right, next slide. So returning back to this whole transit center versus transfer point, there are important distinctions between the two. And really, but the passengers and the riders won't really notice the difference that much. To them, it'll be a recognizable place where they would be making their route transfers, but from an operational standpoint, a lot of those things that are sort of built into the existing transit center at the County Fair Mall, we can schedule those at different locations on, like, for example, the Route 42. And we're looking at those, more closely now. So, with that in mind, that was a selling point for the city that, we're not expecting for buses to be laying over and dwelling, in front of the courthouse for long periods of time. They would come, drop off, pick up their passengers, and they would immediately head out as opposed to just sort of stationing there for pre-scheduled time periods. Next slide. All right, and this schematic just sort of shows some of the amenities that we're looking to spruce up the area. Again, I said it has a nice foundation. It's walkable, it's comfortable. There's some activity in the area, but we are looking to do some enhancements to make it more appealing as a transit center and to provide some transit supported things like bike parking, secure bike parking, additional lighting, perhaps, restriping on the street, concrete pads so that the buses don't cause settling in the road and those types of things. Next slide. All right, so moving forward, the board gave a sort of an initial sort of support, but nothing hasn't taken formal action on that. So we'll bring that to them at, I believe, either the November or the December meeting. And then after that, we'll be looking for an announcement on our grant application for the SACOG Mobility Zones funding program. And so implementation of this is going to need to coincide with implementation of the SRTP. So we'll be trying to figure out exactly when those local woodland routes can be initiated, and that needs to coincide with timing when we think we can, we can have the new transfer point location set up and ready to serve that function. And I think that's the last slide that I have on this item. This brings us back to the recommendations. We already discussed recommendation number 1. And then so what we're just looking for is support to recommend that the board relocate the transit center to the transfer point on Main Street between 5th and 6th.
Thank you. I think this time maybe we'll start with anybody in the public or online that wants to make comments on the item. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this item? And seeing none, is there anybody online who would like to speak on this item?
No public comment online.
All right. Okay, I'll take questions, and this time I'll start at Patrick's end. Nothing for Patrick. Oh, do you have a question?
Yeah. Kim, do you have any questions? Oh, you're coming all the way over to me and then back to you.
I am starting at your end and working my way back to me.
Good. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome.
Brian, help me with this overhead. where is the new courthouse from here?
It's on the bottom part of, it's, see those two paved sort of.
Yeah. Right,
Pathways, that's where you can sort of, and on the edges, you can kind of see the curve of the building, that's where the courthouse is.
okay. And you think you'll be able to time it such that you don't have buses just parked there?
That's the goal.
Okay. What if it doesn't work?
Well, we'd have to be thinking of a reason why the buses would be dwelling there. So this is really just a stop like any other stop on their routes.
Okay.
So it's the passengers that stay, the buses don't.
What if, I'm thinking of, playing the devil's advocate. Let's say, the Sacramento bus gets caught downtown for some reason. So in the meantime, there's another 42 bus that catches up and then needs to hold. Can they pick up passengers and go on, or what do you do? I mean, I'm just
Yeah.
skeptical that the timing is with buses is not always predictable. Just stuff happens.
Right, I'm struggling to visualize that specific scenario, but I think one of the things that's sort of making this more workable is the fact that we're going to 30-minute headways on the local routes and on the 42 A's, A and B. So, even if you have some, scheduled divergences, you've got enough buses, you have a high enough frequency that you wouldn't need to have a bus hold.
Right, but you've got other buses just besides the 42 that are gonna be there. You're gonna have everything there, right? All the buses are gonna come through here.
So a couple things. So at a time point, this would be a time point. So to your point, if bus arrives ahead of schedule, then it waits at a time point until it's time for it to depart. So we're not saying that there will never be any buses stopped there. That would happen at any sort of time point.
Sure.
But the buses won't be laying over this. It's not a driver relief stop. So we have designated places where the drivers are allowed essentially to take their breaks. And that's something that is dictated so that they're not having the buses basically parked in unsafe locations. And in terms of if we need to change vehicles, obviously there's emergency situations that happen, and that can happen at any bus stop, right? If we have a breakdown or whatever.
Sure.
But in terms of when we need to swap vehicles, swap drivers, we have designated locations where those happen as well. And so I think that the key difference between this and accounting for a mall is that this is not a location for those things to happen. We have other places where we can accomplish those functions.
Give me an example.
Of a place?
Yeah, some of the places you have it.
Well, right here, in fact, in front of, and we now, because of the improvements on Main Street, we now actually have a bus pad on the north side of Main Street. It's a 42 stop that's right here between our building and Sprouts. So we actually have stops on at multiple corners here. So this could be a place where we could actually have buses lay over. So for buses, if we're changing buses, we can have one bus go straight into the yard and another one come out, for example. Very convenient location for that, which was not possible before the Main Street improvements and the addition of the bus pad right here in front of our office, which is.
Well, I think there's quite a number with the route switch ups as well, plus the infrastructure improvement, I think. So Patrick does say he does have a question, so if we've given him first cut, we'll go back to him.
Apologies.
Thank you. You do have some flexibility, sounds like.
Yep.
Okay.
Patrick's next. Patrick is still next.
Okay, thank you. I think this could be great because I think this would be where people would come from all over the county for jury duty, correct? So that's excellent. Two quick questions. Are there plans for the city-owned parcel? I assume parcel means it's empty at the moment. And the second question would be the public improvement. Is the public safety of Freeman Park the stuff?
Yeah, I think that there have been improvements to Fremont Park and, it wasn't raised as a concern by the city, and we don't particularly have strong concerns as, transit operators as to, the safety of the area. There are ways that you can, look to improve safety through design, as well, that we'll be looking at as we go into sort of, design of the transfer point. They do own that parcel. I think they probably have long-term, sort of, aspirations to make that a redevelopment site, so that will, sort of strengthen, kind of anchor the area, because you do want to have, active uses, eyes on the street, so to speak, for, a use such as ours. And we get that during, the daytime with the courthouse, where there's just, there's a lot of activity, a lot of folks that are entering and exiting the building, so, that was one of the strengths of this location. And at nighttime, it's a little bit, it's a little bit different, but with a, redevelopment right there, it could help.
Thank you. Alden, you have the question, do you mind if you?
No.
You're up.
Oh, so since I'm a new CSC member, I might ask some silly questions. First, under agenda item 4, I was wondering if anyone would mind elaborating on what budget neutral scenario mean? Or should there be budget neutral scenarios? Since we will have more than one scenario, that's budget neutral.
Oh, so for the short range transit plan, we'll have multiple funding scenarios presented to the board, for adoption. And so what the base case scenario used to be called budget neutral. We're sort of shifting the phrase over to either base case or baseline. And that's just making sure that the miles and hours are consistent between what is currently in place, the existing, and the base case. And so also we will have an aspirational scenario. So if more funding magically appears, what can we do with it? Or if funding needs to shift because of any number of reasons, and we need to adjust our service and basically lose funding or funding contraction, then what fixed route offerings would we be able to provide in those scenarios? So there's multiple funding scenarios that are going to be presented.
And there's one budget neutral scenario.
Yes,
Right,
Oh, one.
it's one, it is one plan.
it's the same matching of hours and miles. Yes.
Oh,
So it's not funding in terms of like dollar amounts, it's hours and miles, which is how we are billed by Transdev currently, by our transit operator.
Oh, thank you. I have a follow-up question. Oh, I'm sorry, this sounds silly. So, under agenda item 4, it says recommendations. And then provide feedback on SRTP. I was wondering, like, who does this recommendation and then provide feedback? Like, is it, asking for the general public for feedback, or just us, the CAC here tonight?
For the CAC tonight, and the members of the public who are able to join for the CAC, but for the recommendation tonight is.
So if I can jump in there, we've been through the public input and it will be going to the board. And before it goes to the board, it comes to us for our feedback based on what we heard. And that was the first hour of this meeting, was the feedback that we gave on that, which will end up going to the board.
And the recommendations, like, who is the subject?
So the second part is the piece we're discussing now, which is the transit point location, and they'll be asking us to make a recommendation, and that recommendation will also go to the board at their meeting.
Yes, but here, it sounds like recommendations is an overarching word, and then.
Yes, the first recommendation is to give feedback on the budget neutral scenario, which we've done.
Oh,
The second recommendation here is on the transit point.
thank you.
If I may, Madam Chair. Anytime we have an item like this that we bring to you and then we bring to the board in their staff report, it will summarize everything that we heard from you. So I'm taking notes as you all are talking, and and Janine will be taking notes and she's recording the meeting. And so in one section of the staff report that the board receives will say, here's what we heard from the CAC. So anything you share with us tonight will get recorded in that way and shared with the board. So they have the benefit of your feedback.
Thank you.
Olin.
Sure. Patrick, now I'm not in the Woodland as much as I used to be, but I'm not aware of any problems at River Park. Apparently, there are some bad actors there, and still me.
To be clear, I have no knowledge of this park. The origin of my question was just thinking that if the current concern is the transfer station is mostly uninhabited at night or not trafficked at night, same can usually be said for parks. And so having it right across the street from this new proposed area, I just worry about what parks at night can be like what element is there, and so I just hope that it doesn't create the same issue in a new place that's been very hard fought. Like this seems like a great solution. If it's amenable to the city council and to Yolo County Transit District. I just don't want the same public safety concerns to then resurface at the end of this entire process. So I was asking the question more to provoke thought that I think has probably been considered, but that would be a concern, not during the daytime, because obviously the courthouse is going to be trafficked during business hours, but then they're directly after especially now this time of year, it's dark by the time business hours end. So just raising that as a concern.
I could chime in. I do know that the location is much more trafficked in general than County Fair Mall. Been out there quite a bit. And I always worry about anything that doesn't have good lighting, doesn't have eyes on. So Freeman Park did have some issues, but that was several years ago. And I have not heard of any issues in, say, the last 6 years.
Yeah, and I think it's a valid concern because of, I think, sort of the historical, context of Freeman Park, but as, Owen and Lisa have alluded to, that I think that the city has been able to address that, and to their credit at County Fair Mall as well, they've, addressed the issues there, so we don't have quite the same issue that we did about a year ago. And because they own, it's Freeman Park is city-owned property, it's, much easier for them to respond to anything and to address issues if they arise.
And then
Madam Chair.
I'm gonna take chair turn and then I'm gonna turn it back to you. One second.
Sure.
So I do like the idea that it's adjacent to the city-owned parcels and that they have been wanting to do redevelopment in that area for a while. And I do see this as a positive amenity to help them with that process. Owen?
Sure. Well, one thing I'd suggest that we recommend, given Patrick's comments and yours as well, that this get reviewed by the police department. It hasn't already been reviewed. But ask them, just go to them and say, how many
Well,
homeless?
perhaps we should say there should be a safety plan.
Okay, right.
What I can say in response to that is that, we're working directly with the city manager and community development director on this, on all the scoping of this project. So, we are deferring to the city on all matters related to public safety because we're not responsible for the public safety. So, the city manager has been actively involved in this relocation sort of effort entirely. So, I don't think that, we need to sort of impose on them what sort of safety mitigations need to be considered.
Before we go on, I see Frank has his hand up.
Yes, you can hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, I just want to provide some agreement. I do like the transfer point. I'm excited to see the improvements that the construction of the transfer point brings with amenities for future riders, secure bike parking, additional people gathering in the area. I know there is future development plans right there at Main and East Street, the northwest corner, for some kind of I don't know, single story development going on there. So that'll add some more foot traffic to the area. Maybe one day the hotel will be built right there that's adjacent to Freeman Park. I don't know. Um, that'll be nice for the transfer point as well. One additional thing I had regarding the courthouse that someone brought up regarding jury duty. I know I had jury duty. It was a couple of years ago now at this point, and they do offer the free passes for people to take Yolobus to jury duty. So when I received the pass, it did not work when I had swiped it on the buses. I don't know how often these passes are checked by Yolobus or vice versa by the staff there at the courthouse. So I'm just concerned some of these people might be taking the bus for the first time ever. And if the first experience is, hey, the pass doesn't work, perhaps there's an easier way to disperse passes for those serving on the jury. Because I was taking it from Davis for jury summons that I had. That is all I have for the input on the transfer point.
Thank you, Greg. All right, one more round of questions. We'll start with Olin, then Lulu, then Patrick.
Brian, I hear your comments. It is a city responsibility. If the city's okay with it, the city's okay with it, but you don't want this thing to go to public hearing and have some citizen or two or three or whatever get up and scream about public safety. Because that does scare people away, and people are scared away from transit enough as it is. What I would suggest, I think, is that you put that question to the city and just ask them. Can you check with the police department and see if they've had a big number or a small number or no issues with Freeman Park? To me, I haven't seen that. Patrick has experienced that and the chair has as well.
Not for years.
Okay, but it's wide open. And, usually, somebody who's gonna sleep in the park unless they're dead drunk. They don't sleep there. They prefer to be in a corner someplace under a freeway or whatever. And, so there are no tents that go up there, whatever. But I just suggest you check that out with the police department and then the question's resolved. And, then I think it's an excellent spot. And I support this project wholly. I think it's a great compromise. You can still get downtown. You can never get downtown on the 42. Go to jury duty or just going out to Woodland to walk up and down the Main Street, which is lovely, I think. And my wife's sister has come with us to restaurants, in Woodland. And she thinks it's a fantastic little town and a fantastic Main Street. And so I think there's a lot of good reasons for doing this. And I commend you for checking it out. Getting it done.
Lulu, any other questions?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I was wondering if this meeting location is accessible by Yolo bus, from various cities in Yolo County.
This location here?
Yes.
Yeah, because the 42 does stop right here, at the corner of Main and Industrial. So yes, it is. And the 42 does run until 10:30 p.m. So yes, and in fact, we do have members of the public who attend meetings here who come actually from Sacramento on the 42.
So, I have a follow-up question. I understand that, so the public does have the option to take the bus to come to our meeting. I was also wondering if we can consider like hosting one of the CSE meetings, for example, in the community, like once a year or something. So the public, the community, it's a little bit easier for them to come in person if they want to. Also, I have a suggestion. Next time, can we provide a table for public members who come to our meeting because they might want to write?
Okay. Patrick, any final issues on the transit center?
No, I didn't mean to cast any doubt or make any commentary on Freeman Park. I'm not familiar with it. That was just a general question about parks. But yeah, thank you again for the opportunity to provide feedback. It's a great plan.
And with that, we've got a consensus, it's a great plan, but do we have a motion to recommend it to the board? I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'd like to make a amended motion, if you're okay with that, Patrick, which would be that we recommend it to the committee with the suggestion that the security issue be adequately addressed. If there is one, if there should be one.
I would certainly think it would be appropriate to, ask, that they share the safety plan with Yolo Transit. I think that's maybe a better way to discuss that.
Okay, I second that motion.
Is that what you want? You think it's fine?
No, I think that's fine for them to have the opportunity to review the safety plan.
Sorry, could you clarify what the recommendation is?
We're recommending to the board the relocation of the Woodland Transit Center at County Fair Mall to a transfer point on Main Street between Fifth and Sixth Streets, and that, and ask that the city share the safety plan with Yolo Transit for the area.
Does that give you enough wiggle room?
Yeah, I'm kind of interpreting that as sharing a safety plan
Yes,
with
a
us
safety
if
plan.
one
Yes,
is, if they
yes,
develop one.
yes. All right, I think I have a motion. I think I have a second. Do I have a vote? All in favor, say aye.
All right,
Aye. All opposed?
Frank, yeah.
Frank?
Sorry, I.
All right. Motion passes. Thank you very much. Good discussion.
and good work.
Good job, Maria. That takes us to the feedback on the new transit operations contract.
Okay, great. I'll be doing the presentation for this item. Another lengthy item, so buckle your seatbelts. We do have a fair amount of content to cover on this one as well. Let's start by just reviewing what's in the staff recommendation. You can go to the next slide. So we are asking for your feedback on key aspects of procuring a new transit operations contract. That includes the timeline and process, the priorities and evaluation criteria for the new contract, and the scope of work. And it's not here, we're not looking for your feedback on it, but I did want to share a little bit of context about some of the fiscal issues around our transit operations contract. So I'll share those at the end. So by way of background, all YoloTD transit services are operated under contract. We've been our current contract with TransDev begins in 2018, although I will say it follows several, in fact, many successive contracts. All TransDev and or its predecessor has been our contractor for a number of years. This contract being as old as it is, back to 2018, is pretty unusual in the transit agency industry to have a contract this long. And it does create some challenges. It's very much out of alignment with the labor market because the contract rates are predetermined at the beginning of the contract, and with the amount of inflation that we've seen, what it means is it makes it very difficult to recruit and retain staff. Because we're not really, frankly, the prices that we pay for this contract don't really give the contractor a lot of room to pay their staff more. Also, our services have really changed and our operational needs have changed. We did not have Beeline or any kind of microtransit in 2018, or let alone 2017 when we actually went out to bid. A lot of our technology and fare payment methods have changed. So there's a lot of reasons that we think it's important to go back out to bid. We do have the option of extending this contract for another 4 years, but it's our recommendation that we actually go ahead and proceed with re-procuring a new contract because of some of those challenges. Next slide. So the approach we've taken is to do a comprehensive update to align with industry best practices. So that includes kind of reorganizing the contract, adding some new pieces to it, and also having a much shorter time frame. So this is going to be a 2-year base contract with 3 option years. So a maximum of 5 years, but with the opportunity to kind of go back out to bid essentially a year in if we're not happy with the performance that we're getting from our contractor. We want to keep what's working from our current contract, and we're borrowing from other more recent procurements to address known problem areas. So really looking around at what our peers in the agency are doing to address some of what's changed in the world and looking to borrow from them. We have hired a consulting bench of retired transit agency executives. Because this is my first time doing this, it's our whole team, none of us were involved in the last procurement. We wanted to make sure that we were learning from folks who had more experience than we did. Next slide. Next we'll talk a little bit about the process and timeline. So this kind of lays out a pretty standard procurement schedule for you. You can see, we're hoping that our board will approve the RFP in a couple of weeks on November 17th, and then it'll go out right away. And then proposals would be due from bidders in February with the goal of awarding the contract in April. So it would start on August 1st. And it's important that we have a long lead time with the startup of this contract, because as you can imagine, having an entirely new firm come in here, which is what could potentially happen, there's a lot of moving pieces that need to happen, so they need a long startup time to make that possible. Next slide. In terms of roles and responsibilities for the procurement, the staff and consulting team, we're writing the RFP and kind of managing the overall process. Our consultants are going to be doing a technical analysis of the bids, and these are folks, again, who have more experience than we do, that can actually sort of parse through the costs and the staffing levels and some of the various pieces to help us understand kind of how the different bids we're getting compare to what others are paying out there, and to give us a sense of, like, because we're so out of step with the market and it's been so long, we really don't have any kind of benchmarks other than what we can understand from different agencies. So that's the technical analysis that our consultants are going to do for us. Earlier today, our TAC met and we gave them a similar presentation and asked for their feedback. We're asking for your feedback tonight. Anything you'd like to see changed in this RFP before it goes to the board for approval. We will be developing an evaluation panel. I'll say more about that in a minute, but the panel role would be to review and score the proposals we receive, interview the proposers, and make a recommendation to the board on which bidder or which proposer to choose. And then, of course, the board's role is to approve the release of the RFP, approve that selected proposer, and award the contract next April. And if we receive any bid protest or challenge to our procurement, that would mean that the board is has the role of essentially hearing the protests that are made and then making any rulings if they want to make us go back and change or do anything differently. Next slide. So our proposed evaluation panel, we're proposing a seven-person panel, including myself, representatives from the cities of Davis, West Sacramento, and Woodland. Two of our peer transit operators, Yuba Sutter Transit, that operates under a very similar contract model that we do. Unitrans, which of course does not have a contract model, right? They directly employ students to run their service, but nonetheless, they know a lot about our service area and our needs, and there's some dependencies between our two agencies, so they have a stake in our success. And then SACOG, our MPO, and then we're also suggesting and we suggested to the board that the CAC may wish to appoint a non-voting representative to the evaluation panel to provide the CAC's feedback. So if that's something that the CAC is interested in, and you have anyone who'd be willing to volunteer, we would love to have your participation in that way as well. Moving on to priorities for the new contract. We identified at the staff level, we identified 8 goals for kind of priorities that we have for this new contract, and we brought those to the board last month. The ones that you see with an asterisk at the top are ones that board members did reflect that they believe was a priority or something that they had comments on. So as you go through them, just note that the ones that were marked with an asterisk we heard from the board were important. The first is service quality and reliability. making sure that our services are on time, the bus shows up when it says it's going to, that it's clean, that we have good customer service, all the things that make it, a pleasant experience for our riders. Number 2 is cost effectiveness. Are we achieving the best value for our public funds? Are we able to control and predict our operating costs? And can we avoid redundancies and prioritize efficiency? The third is accountability and performance management. We want to make sure that we have very clear metrics of performance, or KPIs, if you will, and that there's penalties and incentives in place to encourage our contractor to meet those measures. And then workforce recruitment and retention, as I've already mentioned, this has been a huge issue for us, and no surprise to anyone on this committee who's been through some of the ups and downs we've had over the last few years, that we need to maintain a stable and reliable workforce. Now, we do not directly control the compensation that our contractors' employees get. We cannot dictate what their salaries or their wages are, but we can encourage our contractor to pay them well, and we can score them, for example, give them points in their proposal if they are proposing strategies that we believe will allow us to have a high quality workforce. And I will say that state law does require that our future contractor honor the labor agreements that we have in place at this agency between the transit workers union and the contractor. So that is, and that we will also be giving priority to any contractor that agrees to rehire our existing staff. The fifth area is safety and risk management. Obviously, safety is a huge concern in everything that we do, both for our passengers, our bus drivers, and the traveling public that we interact with every day. Flexibility and scalability, given some of the uncertainties we have in the overall funding environment, we want to make sure that we're able to expand and contract service as needed based on available resources, and we want to do that. We don't want that to become a situation where it triggers renegotiations where we don't have a lot of leverage. So important that we build in some protections for ourselves around that. Innovation and efficiency, again, if there's our current contract is very prescriptive about how we want our contractor to do things. We've actually removed some of that prescriptiveness and detail to try to encourage them to tell us how they think they can do it, if they can do it better than the way we've been doing it, do it in a way that actually increases the quality of service and also increases efficiency. We want to create space for that. And then regulatory compliance and reporting, of course, is a critical issue for us, making sure that we're able to stay in compliance with the state and federal laws and funding guidelines that we have. Shall I keep going? Yeah, okay, great. Just wanted to take a pause. The next piece, and it's very related, is what are our evaluation criteria? We're going to be getting all these bids. How are we deciding which ones we like best? And so when we do that by establishing evaluation criteria and a scoring rubric in advance and advertising that to the proposers so that they know this is what they're going to be judged on. And so we've put together a series of evaluation criteria. There's 6 of them. In addition, there's more detail in your packet about each of these, but I just wanted to provide a high level summary. So, we have, the first one is qualifications and experience of the firm itself. Does the firm have the right qualifications and experience? Then the second is, do they understand our needs? And do they have an approach to the project that makes sense? Do they really understand what YOLO Transit needs as opposed to another transit agency? And have they thought that through? And do they have an approach that we think will work? The third is the qualifications of the key personnel. So there's 5 management positions that we always have that are critical, and making sure that we have qualified people in those positions is essential to the success of our service. And we have had real struggles in the last few years with high turnover of our management staff next door, and that really does create ripple effects throughout the service that do impact our riders. So we want to make sure we have a really strong team there. The next one is the price proposal. is this steep? Does it seem like a reasonable, and clear price? We want to make sure there's no hidden fees, like when you buy an airplane ticket and you think you know, and then all of a sudden you're getting charged for lots of other things. We want to make sure that we're not, that there's no loopholes there, that we're going to end up having to cost more money. While something may look like a good value on the surface, then you get below the surface and realize it's not covering all the costs. Retention and recruitment of the qualified workforce. As I mentioned, there's some state laws that require us to provide certain points for this. And then we've also gone beyond that because it's so important to us that we've provided an additional 5 points for proposers who really prioritize workforce. And then lastly, creative and innovative solutions. Do they have some good ideas for how to make our service more efficient and to make it better? So those are the evaluation criteria. And then the fourth major piece that we have is the scope of work. And this is like a 50-page document that's in your packet, of course. I'm sure you all read it thoroughly. I'm not going to go through all of it. I'm just going to summarize kind of what are the different sort of chapters, if you will, the different major pieces, and what's new in there. What's really different that we haven't done in the past? Like, what are we proposing to change? Obviously, we've reorganized a lot of this, but just in terms of new content, I wanted to highlight some of that. So first is we've added a new section, which is our duties and responsibilities. And this is really about being clear, like what's your job and what's our job, so that everybody's clear about, who's doing what. The next section, many of the next sections are all about what the contractor is expected to do. The first is operations, and we've added a new explicit section about Beeline microtransit to make it really clear what our expectations are for microtransit. Under facilities and maintenance, we've added battery electric vehicles because of course we have those now as part of our fleet, and it's going to be a growing part of our fleet in the future. For customer service, we're kind of doing something different. Historically, we have sold passes and tickets ourselves while Transdev has handled all other customer service responsibilities. That's really inefficient because it means we both have to separately staff customer service counters. There's frankly not a lot of people that buy passes and tickets in person, but for those who need that service, we have to have it available to them. So we're not even really talking about a lot of money changing hands. So we're talking about consolidating that and have our contractor handle all of our customer service, which will free up resources on our side to no longer have to staff a front counter in that way. And then information technology, this is a new section. IT is obviously a huge, piece. We're using more and more tech every day. And so we wanted to make that a more explicit component of the contract. Next slide. And then for KPIs, our previous contract had KPIs and penalties. It did not have any performance incentives. So we've added performance incentives. We also had a lot of KPIs and but the penalties, some of them were very hard to track and the penalties were not very significant. So we've increased the penalties so that they're meaningful. And we've reduced the number of KPIs to just a handful of ones that we really feel like are important for us to track and that are easy, straightforward for us to track. And with the hope that we can be more, have them be more useful. And then we've got an entirely new section on management, retention, reassignment, and removal for the reasons that are mentioned earlier. We want to make sure that we have some strong protections in place so we're not dealing with lots of vacant management positions and high turnover.
That's within the department.
Within the, yes, for the contractor next door. Yes. And I'll leave it at that. I'm happy to answer questions on any of those pieces. And then just a word about the fiscal impact. We want to acknowledge that significant cost increases are likely given the age of the current contract. We don't know exactly what those are going to be until we go out and test the market. So we're not going to speculate about, is it a 20% increase, is it a 30% increase, because we just don't know. So given that uncertainty, how do we control costs? So you heard a little bit about this. Go ahead to the next slide. When we were talking about the SRTP, Yolo was talking about miles and hours. Well, that is how we pay for our service. We have a category of costs that are called variable costs, and those go up and down depending on how much service. So we pay for the hours of service that we have, and we also pay for the miles of service. So how many miles are our buses running? So we pay our contractor per mile, and we pay them per hour of service. And those costs can flex. If we increase service, those costs go up. If we cut service, those costs go down. And that is actually the majority of the costs in the contract. The fixed cost section is things that we need no matter what. We know we need a general manager, we need a safety manager, we need preventive maintenance on our vehicles. These are costs that we have to incur regardless of how much service that we're operating, and those are fixed. But again, they are a fairly small percentage of our overall contract. And so it's that variable cost that allow us to scale according to our budget. So as you heard earlier with our short range transit plan, we've got 3 scenarios under development. Our base case scenario, an increased service scenario, and a reduced service scenario. And those are where we can implement cost controls, is by, cutting service if needed under a reduced service scenario. And again, all of those scenarios will be presented to the board. All of them will be included in the final SRTP. So if the time comes when we need to reduce service, we have a roadmap for doing that. And then lastly, we are continuing to do a series of budget workshops for our board. In February 2026, I want to invite the CAC. We're going to be bringing in some guest speakers to talk about options for increasing revenue. We'll be talking about, of course, toll revenue from the YoloTD project, but we'll also be talking about a potential future countywide sales tax measure to fund transportation improvements, not just transit, but transportation improvements across the board. And then looking at what some of those other options may be. But those are, that's going to be a very interesting conversation, and I would invite the CAC to come and listen to that. So with that concludes the presentation, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Okay, we'll start with you. Okay, but I'm starting with you. Ask your question first, so go.
She's the boss.
Oh, yeah, so when you use the word proposer, did you mean contractor? So,
Yeah, so we call them all proposers until we pick one, and once we have one, then they're our contractor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do a follow-up?
Oh, thank you. Oh, no follow-up.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you,
Owen?
Madam Chair.
Sure. I like your presentation, and it's quick and clear, and I just had a couple of overall comments. When you say you're going to give extra credit to the proposers who agreed to hire the existing employees. Question, do you think that will limit the number of proposers, good qualified proposers who come forward? Who may be lost the contract someplace and they got some employees that like to have jobs for.
So I want to be clear, the 10 points that we're providing those are required under state law. The 5 additional points are not just for agreeing to rehire our workforce. It's because they have ideas or strategies, commitments that they're going to make that they think will allow us to recruit and retain a workforce. So those 5 points are not just simply, we're going to give those to you if you agree to rehire everybody. I think that I don't know if that helps clarify.
It does, and you're probably planning on doing this, but you could weight all of those criteria as well. And so let's say, that criteria of hiring the employee is whatever you decide is important, but how will it affect the competitiveness of the process?
Yeah, that's right. So we've
So
given,
maybe you give them a nickel.
well, we're giving them 5 points
You give them
out of 100 for those
We're
strategies.
doing, okay, all right, so that should be okay. That's not gonna be what's the biggest item?
If we can bring back up the slide deck, Janine, if you can refer back to slide 52. Yeah, slide 52, proposed evaluation criteria. You'll see on the right is the max points. And so the first 3 categories all are 20 points apiece. So we're equally weighting those three. So it's the qualifications of the firm, qualifications of the key personnel, and then it's their overall approach and understanding of the project. Those three are gonna get the highest number of points.
And then the one about rehiring is, you're giving them 15.
15 points, right? 10 points for recruitment and retention, which is required under state law. And then,
Oh, it is.
it is, 10 of those points are required under state law. That's right.
Okay.
And then the other 5 are discretionary. They're at our discretion. And those are, again, not for rehiring the current workforce, but for other ideas that they have.
Innovation,
Yeah, excuse me?
innovation.
Innovations in exactly that are going to help them retain and recruit the workforce.
Okay. On a scale of 10, can I have another one?
Sure, one more.
On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the highest, the greatest, and 1, no, you don't like them at all. How would you rank this Transdev?
Oh, I cannot do that. I haven't seen the proposal yet.
Okay.
I mean, we haven't even released it yet, so
All right.
I don't want to say anything that could, interfere with the
Yes, I
process.
will have to cut off this line of questioning. Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, from my experience over the last 25 years, going to these meetings and whatnot, as a SACOG person and then on my own here as a member of the committee, there were a lot of problems with some that I don't see with this group. And in fact, that people,
Well, then I have to ask you not to comment.
okay, all right.
Thank you. Patrick, question.
Yeah, just a couple quick clarifying questions. You said the contract has been 7 years? So what's the average life? You said that was long. What's the average life?
Yeah, 3 or 4 years is more typical.
3 to 4 years, okay. And, you know, if we're talking like the total number of operators in the ecosystem, like how many ballpark are there?
There has been some consolidation in the industry in the last few years with COVID.
Okay.
There's about 5 to 7 big national or global, Transit's actually global firms that are kind of the big players that are nationwide. And then there's a handful of smaller firms that are local, here in Northern California. There's 2 that I'm aware of. Yeah, so it's not a huge number of firms, but there certainly are choices. And when we just look around our surrounding area, Transdev does operate a lot of the properties around here. But there's a number of other contractors that are represented as well.
A follow up?
Yeah.
Is just how many would you anticipate, how many proposals would you anticipate or are you hoping to get?
Yeah, we're hoping to get as many as possible. So we've already been outreaching and contacting all of the major firms. We've already been in touch with all of them. I'm going to the California Transit Association conference next week where I've got meetings scheduled with basically all of them, to try to encourage them to come and apply for our service. I mean, the sense is this has not been a competitive property for a long time. And so, but my hope is that we can share the message that is no longer the case and that we're really open to new ideas and new ways of doing business.
I just had a couple. So I'm just wondering, current economy where it is, depending on your releases, that may also be in your favor. So something to keep in mind because the labor market is softening
Now, yeah.
quite a bit. I'm gonna skip I was gonna talk about innovation, but you covered it, so I'm so proud of you. I do think a bit about how you divvied up your proposed evaluation criteria, and I just say that as someone who writes a lot of RFPs and responds to a lot of RFPs, is that since cost is such a big determining factor, you've weighted this so that 60% of your points are non-monetary. I'm just wondering if you want to take a second look back at that, given that you could have a proposal that is extremely not cost competitive, but just bangs it out at 60% of points out of the gate, you're gonna have some issues, and it would be worth it to go back and revisit your scoring criteria.
Thank you.
On the, if indeed the costs do come out kind of high, and you already do have a roadmap for sort of in your SRTP for service reductions, wondering how much of that comes back to, say, CAC for public input prior to having to take those measures to see if there are other innovations.
Yes, great question. Actually, under federal law, anytime that we're reducing service, we have pretty a high bar in terms of public engagement to do that, particularly if there are low-income communities or communities of color that are impacted under Title VI. So, so yes, any service reductions would be coming to the CAC, absolutely.
Appreciate that. I have one more thing about IT. So this is again me and what I do in my day job, being sure that when you're working on your IT duties transition, that your contractor is not holding the keys to your kingdom, and that you've got a good, solid plan for both risk and responsibility sharing in terms of access, so that should there be some point where the relationship isn't super happy, they don't have all your stuff.
Yeah, so the good news in that respect is actually we own all the computers, we own the network, we own everything. So in fact, our contractors had a very limited role in IT historically, and that's gonna stay that way. The only place where we're looking to delegate more responsibility to them is actually for the maintenance of the equipment in our buses, like card readers, that sort of thing. But all of the computers and the network and everything here and servers will all continue to be under our control.
Great, that is what I wanted to hear. So those are my questions. We'll take one more and go around. Ola and then Lulu, and then if Patrick has another one, we'll go that way.
I can ask another inappropriate question.
But if you ask an appropriate question, we'll have to ask you to stop. Do you have another one? Are you good? Can't be anything about service.
No, you have my question on the finances.
Appreciate that. Lulu?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I have a question about the proposer proposing hiring existing staff. It is my understanding that, for example, when Transdev as a contractor is phasing out, they will take their staff with them, or are we talking about, are these existing staff like freelance transit workers or?
Yeah, so typically the way this happens is that the management staff will stay with Transdev. And if, but the bus operators, the mechanics, the customer service representatives, dispatchers, it is very common. Those are the ones who are covered by the union contract. And those are the ones who must be offered the right to, first right of refusal to keep their jobs if they want. So yeah, yes, we would see that the management staff would likely, very few of them would stay. But in terms of the frontline workers, should they choose to, there's a good chance that they would stay.
Thank you.
I personally think it looks like a really good proposal. Is there anybody, I'll take a comment at this point. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to comment on this proposal? Is there anyone online that would like to comment on this?
No public comments online.
So seeing no public comment, do you need an actual recommendation, or do you have the information that you need?
Madam Chair, the only thing I would remind is if there's interest from a CAC member in serving in a non-voting seat, that we would be happy to, on the evaluation panel, then we'd be happy to take that recommendation to the board.
I'm actually wondering if Frank Reyes would be interested in participating.
Frank left the meeting.
So we can follow up again after, if that works.
You don't need to make a decision tonight. The evaluation will not be until, we're not getting proposals until February, and so.
Okay, great. We'll take it up the next meeting.
Okay.
With that, is this item concluded or do you need something additional?
This item is concluded, thank you.
All right, that takes us on to the CAC meeting schedule.
Okay, Madam Chair, just very briefly, we have a meeting scheduled for you for next year that largely follows the schedule we've been using this year. Hopefully we have quorum at most of the meetings. So the schedule is on page 88 of your packet. And we would ask that you, if you have any feedback for us about this schedule, again, we're only required under our bylaws to meet quarterly. Historically, at least for the last few years, there's been a desire to meet every other meeting because that allows us to have you more synced up, if you will, with the board schedule, so that when something's coming to the board, there's a good chance we can get it in front of you before it goes to the board. This roughly follows the schedule that we've had for the last few years.
So the only thing I would say to this is that we have been meeting on Mondays and I am chair of the planning commission in
right.
winters and they do meet, I think, the third Tuesday of the month. So where there's a conflict there, I
I think-
will not be able to attend.
That's right. I think we have been meeting on Tuesdays and we switched to Mondays. Is that right? Yeah. So we need to, it looks like maybe we need to go back and look at switching this to Mondays if that is.
Yeah, the same schedule on Mondays works for me, actually. It's just the date.
So we can bring this back. We can bring this back at the next meeting, except for we do need to at least pick a date for the next meeting.
When I look at the calendar, my brother's birthday, and I don't know if it's planning commission. I have my priorities.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Okay, one moment. Okay, so that would not affect, yes, your question.
Oh, yeah, I was wondering if we still need a vice chair for the CSC.
We'll do chair and vice chair, in January. At the same time, we'll do the final. So is there, so January 27th does work for me, if it works for other members. We want to at least set that date.
Do you want to do it on Tuesday?
Just this one, and then we'll try to bring back one that fits with my schedule.
Okay. It's the
The 27th of January.
27th works for
Well, let's tentatively, do that, and if we run into issues with some of the other members, we can, do the roll.
Okay, sounds good. So motion is to set the meeting for the next meeting for Tuesday, January 27th, and then to have this come back with a revised schedule for the rest of the
Along
year.
with the chair and vice chair election.
Right.
And just FYI, the Tuesday or Monday, May 25th is the day after Memorial Day, or the day is Memorial Day. And the day after would not work for me, but the week before would, the week after would not.
Wonderful, Memorial Day.
Well, and I would also, one thing to think about as well with regard to May is that we did actually move, this was close to the original calendar that we've adopted, but we actually moved that up in order to allow the CAC to have input on the budget and work plan prior to it going to the board. You would have, with this schedule, you would still have it prior to it going to approval by the board, because approval is not until June. But if there was a desire for the CAC to see it before it even goes to the board for a first reading, then we
I
would.
thought that worked really well, and I thought that that was valuable to everyone, so I would appreciate that.
Okay, so maybe we'll move that to like the first week of May or the last week of April.
Madam Chair, I have a final comment.
Yes.
So I want to express my interest in being that non-voting CSC member to be on the evaluation panel for the new contract.
Okay, well, yeah, so we'll get that at the next meeting.
Okay.
whenever you set the meeting, just fine. Exactly like that.
Okay.
That's Memorial Day that we got it.
Yeah, we can't do it on
Yes, sir.
Memorial
I
Day.
think we're gonna move it earlier so we can have the budgeting.
I don't have a conflict in September.
Okay.
All right, I think we're on administrative reports.
Do we need to vote on this
Do
item?
we need to vote?
Just for the 27th date.
I have a motion. Do the 27th.
So moved.
I got a motion. There was a second. Anybody?
Question,
Listen,
can I vote on this?
yes, you can.
Then I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
All right,
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. That takes us into administrative reports and that CAC report. Patrick, tell us your bad news.
Oh. Okay, well, yeah, this is my final meeting as a member of the CAC. My term was up at the beginning of this year, I believe, but council member, Dante Early and I agreed that I would stick this out so we could try to find a replacement. It was my understanding there has not been one identified, so sorry to leave the seat open. But thank you everyone for the opportunity to serve my community and to learn more about Yolo County Transit District. It's been an incredible opportunity for 4 and some change years to get to know the staff, to get to know more about, you all, to get to serve with you all, to see folks come and go, and to try to just, address some of the issues that arise along the transportation system. So, yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity and thank you all so very much. And for your leadership throughout.
Oh, thank you so much.
Patrick, I'll miss you. Sorry you're leaving. I tried to talk you out of it, but I couldn't.
We
do
all
that
tried to talk
successfully.
him out of it.
It's who you sent it?
I'm sorry.
It was you, who sent it.
No,
I don't think so. I think.
No.
That was Andy.
that was Andy.
And
Andy, yeah.
we're gonna miss
Patrick's
you, man.
relocating to Denver.
Actually had I really value your steady input and insight.
Thank you.
And there's a card.
Thank you for the card. And yeah,
Thank mostly on
thank you, Autumn.
it.
Thank you for your leadership, Brian. Thank you for yours.
Yeah.
I did not get to serve under your predecessor too much. I think maybe one meeting, but have been confident in your leadership throughout, and I'm very happy that you were selected, and I have confidence in the folks that you've hired and employed throughout. So I am excited about Yolo County Transit District's future. And just for the record, I'd like to thank Dr. Dante Early and Councilmember Chris Ledesma, former Councilmember Chris Ledesma, who appointed me before she was on the city council.
Well, thank you, Patrick. We're gonna miss you as well. And I remember when we first met and had coffee and I was like, oh, I was excited. You were the first CAC member that I met. And I remember being excited to work with you all and learn more about West Sacramento. And so it's been great to have your service. I will say, we do have 4 CAC folks that we're interviewing. We've had a number of applicants in recent months. So we've got 4 promising prospects, including one from West Sacramento. And so maybe I'll pick your brain about her after the meeting before you leave, if you will. And so anyway, we're looking forward to hopefully filling your seat soon, although of course there's no way to really fill it.
Yep,
We'll do our best.
we're looking to do interviews at about mid-December. Any other CAC member reports? We did Salmon Festival in Winters and it was awesome. Transit should have a booth. Okay, that takes us to executive director's report.
Well, Madam Chair, I will say that I was hosting a friend who's a journalist for the New York Times who was covering the Salmon Festival. So I did my part to support it. She's writing about it. So it sounds like she had a great time there. In terms of the executive director's report, I already mentioned what's going on with the CAC. You've heard a lot from me tonight already. I do want to just touch on the long-range calendar quickly, to let you know what's coming up. In January, we have which will be your pleasure next meeting next year, we're hoping to bring you the final plan for YOTC. This is the Yolo Active Transportation Corridors Plan. We're very excited about the progress we've made on that this year. So look forward to presenting that to you. We'll also, of course, be bringing back the short-range transit plan. At that point, you'll get to see all three scenarios, but both the base case, if there's any changes to it, and then also the high scenario and the aspirational scenario and the reduced service scenario, and any final service change recommendations. And I noted down, we'll also be doing our chair and vice chair elections. We'll be discussing an appointment to the transit RFP evaluation panel. And then we'll also be doing an updated meeting schedule for the rest of the year. And then in March, that's plenty for January. And in March, the only thing that we have for you at the moment is an update on the Yolo 80 managed lanes project, which we know this panel has asked for at least once a year. It's been a while since we did our last one, so we'll have, I'm sure, plenty of updates to share with you on that at that point.
Sounds good.
Madam Chair, I have a final question.
Yes, go ahead. If it's on her long-range calendar or executive director's report.
For you, no, for the CSC. So, yeah, when you and also mentioned that the chair and the vice chair selection next January, is it going to be like a campaign style, like people who are interested, they have to go on a campaign sort of thing?
It's a great question. It's really just a vote of the committee. So it's the chair and the vice chair are appointed by your peers on this panel. So it's pretty straightforward.
They have to get a nomination, they have to accept the nomination, and then however many people are running for an office will run and be a vote of the peers. You're welcome. Okay, anything else for the good of the order? Seeing none, we're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.